can be any way you want. So you can have multi-column, you can have 3 columns, you can have 2 columns, you can have place text all around the place, and this key selling point is that wherever you look at a PDF document, it always almost remains the same, and when you print it out, it comes out as in the same way. So the downside of this is that there is no easy way for either Acrobat or Reader or Screen Reader to determine what the current reading order should be, what content needs to be read first to make sense to the user. If you are a visual user, you will look at the screen and figure out, yep, this needs to be read first, this needs to be read first, although they might not be in it left to right, top to bottom order. So, but software cannot do that. So you may have to check if the reading order is logical. To do this, you can just quickly, even if you don't have a screen reader, you can check with the Read Out Loud tool. Alternate text for non-image content, non-text content. Well, this is like A in ABC of accessibility, right? All text for images. Logical tab order. When you have forms, you need to check when you're moving from one to the other in a form. You need to check if the tab order there is making sense or not. It's logical or not. If let's say there are 4 fields, first name, last name, address, and email address. If the focus, so you're on first name, and then you tab, it should go to last name. Instead, if it goes to say email address or the address field for some weird reason, then it doesn't make sense. It's not logical. So it needs to be logical. So you can tab from one field to other and check if it makes sense or not. There should be descriptions or labels for form fields. Again, you can provide them in Acrobat. Oops. I did something. Yeah, there you go. Got it. Sorry. I pressed the wrong key there. There are 2 main accessibility standards that you need to worry about when it comes to PDF. The PDF standard itself is the ISO 32000 now, 3200. That's the main superset of all PDF standards. There were a boatload of other PDF standards. If you're curious about the history, I can see the slides, but I'm not going to read through all of those. But what you need to know about is the PDF UA standard, which is basically an ISO standard which says that if you follow this particular type of PDF, you are creating an accessible PDF. So ISO 14289, let me check if that number is correct. 14289, sorry. 14289, that's the one. I can never remember that. ISO 14289, it's in a draft state, almost at the final draft state. And it might be a standard anytime now. That can include up to June or 6 months. Who knows? It's an ISO standard, so they go through a lot of processes. That's an important standard. The third thing that also you need to also aware is that recently W3C have updated their WCAG2 technique documents to include certain techniques for PDF which make PDF documents comply to WCAG 2 requirements. So if you are in your organization, you are using PDF files and somebody asks you to conform to WCAG 2, you can demonstrate your conformance by showing that you use all these techniques. So WCAG, as I mentioned yesterday, produces technology documents or techniques, produces techniques for different technologies. There are techniques for HTML, ARIA, Flash, Silverlight, and PDF, among other things. So we've recently, W3C have recently created techniques for WCAG2 techniques for PDF, which is a very significant move. Contributed heavily to that effort. Adobe Acrobat X new features. There are certain critical things which I can quickly talk about, but if you will only matter if you have used an old version of Acrobat before, so Acrobat 9 or 10. The main thing is the UI has completely changed. You have more commonly used options in the front. Action Wizard, which is basically a way to automate certain tasks, like writing scripts, for instance. Accessible portfolios. Portfolios are a collection of documents in a single PDF document. It can be any file actually. It doesn't have to be a PDF document. It can be SWs, audio files, video files, JPG images, anything that is bunched and tagged together in a one PDF. We've made that the interface to access the contents of a portfolio accessible in the classic file mode. So you need to use the classic file mode, and that's been made accessible. Improved scanning to PDF. We've improved algorithms to recognize certain elements, such as if the text recognizes tables, we also create the table element and tag the tables accordingly. That's one example. There are huge improvements in saving to non-PDF formats in Acrobat X. If you want to save a PDF to HTML or a doc Word format, the conversion is much better now. So these few slides quickly go through because it's basically explaining the same thing what I have said in my previous slides. Let's quickly go through this. Again, if you want to see the slides or go through them at leisure, I can say ask me and I can send you the slides at any time. A couple of scenarios that you would really have to use or you may encounter. The first scenario is the real bad one. You get a PDF file already, you don't know the source of it. It might be created from a Word document, saved as PDF, or it might be from an InDesign document. You get a PDF and you know that it's not accessible, right? So what do? Then you have a slightly longer process. What you need to do first is determine if there are, first thing first is you need to make sure that it's not a scanned PDF, okay? A scanned image. You can do that. You may be able to recognize that it's a scanned image because text might be jagged, or it might be the whole thing might be in an angle. So you might be able to figure out that it might be an image. The other simpler way to do it is press Ctrl F and try to find the text that's on the PDF. You won't find anything, so because there's no text. Once you determine that if it's a scanned image, you run the text recognition and from there. Now, if it's a form, if it's looking like a form, you would have to use the form tools in Acrobat to do your stuff. Or if it's a plain document, you need to structure the document basically by adding headings and adding images to tags. You may have to use lists for denoting list items, tables, and so on. So if you get a PDF document, ask your source if they have a source document that they used. It's often easier to modify the source document, create a PDF out of it, rather than trying to modify the existing PDF document. It's just how the way of things are. So the other thing is, again, where you creating a new PDF file, and the scenario there is slightly more simpler. If you are scanning your document, you unfortunately have no other option to follow the above process. You have to scan, recognize text, and do all the stuff that you need to do to add tags and so on. But if you are creating Word, for instance, or any other word processor, what you can do is you can all your structural elements there itself, in Word itself. So what people do, the biggest thing that mistake that people do is, if they want to, let's say we have a document about Techshare, right? You have Techshare 2012 as the main section, main document heading, and then under that you have smaller level headings like introduction, about Techshare, Techshare past events, and things like that. Under that you will have text. So you need to specify those things as headings. What people do, increase the font size, make it bold, right? Well, visually it looks the same, but there is no semantic information. I'm sorry. So what you need to do there is actually go and change the styles in Word rather than actually increasing the font size and making it bold. You need to use heading 1 style, heading 2 style, heading 3 style. If you want, you can modify the styles themselves, but you need to use the heading styles, for example. When you do that, and when you convert that into PDF, all those nice structural elements automatically get generated into PDF, in the PDF document. So you don't have to really do much work or hardly any work, or even in some cases no work at all to make your PDF accessible. It automatically converts it. When the conversion, it automatically creates the PDF. The only thing you may have to do is Acrobat in PDF Maker settings in Word, you have to turn on, if you're using an older version of Acrobat, which is less than 9.2, you may have to turn on the create tagged and reflowable PDF checkbox. That's all you need to do. But with Acrobat and Acrobat X, I think it's even with Acrobat 9, but definitely with X, it's enabled by default automatically. So those are the two main scenarios. I got the first 10 minutes well, so what I'll do is I'll ask Atul to come up here and quickly show us a nice little demo on what the first scenario in this document where you would get a PDF or a document that does not have any structural elements, and how you would go about adding necessary tags. So I will, Atul will be doing it. I will explain in the meantime how it's being done. Want to take over? So what happens, I said, is there are a couple of things in the process that you need to do. The first thing is, as I said, after you've decided that it's not a scanned PDF and you did all the text recognition bits, the first thing you need to do is add tags to the document. He should be doing that in a moment. Basically, as I said, that for a PDF to be accessible, it needs to have tags. So without tags, forget about creating PDF, accessible PDF document. So you need to get the PDF, create a new file, new document in Acrobat, and then in the Tools panel under Accessibility, you have this Add Tags to Document option. You just add tags. Well, what it does basically is it tries to recognize what elements you have on the document, and to a certain extent, it guesses the element types. For example, in the document that we are going to use, there is a table. So it actually recognizes that it is a table and automatically assigns a table tag to it when you do the tagging. For other bits, for example, it won't do that because we haven't marked up in the source document.
Okay. Yeah. When the PDF was created, it automatically added tags to the PDF. So you can see the add tags to the PDF button disabled. So, but if there are no tags, then this button is enabled, and you can just click on this button, and tags will be added to the PDF.
The next thing you need to do is verify from the touch-up reading tool.
Yeah.
From the touch-up reading order tool, you need to verify if the reading order makes sense, as well as if the tags that there are correct or not. In this case, you will see that the first the heading there on top is not been marked as a heading because it didn't know. It doesn't know. It cannot figure out that it's a heading. So you need to manually add that or specify that particular portion of the text is actually a heading.
So you can see there are 3 elements currently. The first one, the second, and the third. The second is already marked as a table. The first one is the complete text, which includes the heading as well as the paragraph. So just select the text, and as you select the text, like let's select this text, and let me show the options. As you select the text, you can mark text appropriately. Like you can mark it as a text, as a field, as a form field, as a heading title 1, 2, or 3. So in this way, you can add the attributes to the tag, to the.
Okay, so once you have done all that, you can save the document, and then they do a quick check on accessibility. There's a quick check, accessibility quick check, which should hopefully say that there won't be too many problems. Let's see.
Yeah, after clicking the headline, the heading button, it breaks the text into now 5 elements. The first one is the empty line, the second one is the heading, third one is the paragraph, and the fourth is the table, and fifth is another the table space. After that, there is a nice button called check. You can click on it, and it will show the check is complete. No problem has been detected in the quick check.
Right. Okay. Now, this can be a bit misleading, as I said. If there was an image there, and if the image was a logo of Techshare, for instance, I can provide an alt text saying that that's actually a text logo of CSUN conference, let's say. Okay, I'm providing wrong information, but this tool cannot check that. Even there is actually a detailed accessibility check tool as well, which goes into much more detail than the quick check. Even that cannot check. That cannot tell you that the alt text is wrong for the logo. It just cannot, because even the software won't know that it's actually a Techshare logo and not a CSUN logo. So yes, it can give you an information about whether if that's correct or not, but blindly trusting it is not going to create